The screen fades from black to a dim jungle wrapped in silver mist. A low wind sighs through the trees. Somewhere far away an animal cries, a sound that's half human, half beast. The camera slowly zooms in on a man standing at the edge of the jungle. His clothes are torn and muddy. His face looks young, but his eyes look as if they've seen 100 winters. He speaks in a low, shaking voice. Have you ever stepped into a place where time doesn't follow the rules of the world? He swallows hard. I went in for one day. I swear it was just one day. But when I came back it felt as if I had lived 100 years in there. I don't know if you'll believe me, but every word I'm about to tell you is true. And before you think I survived because I'm brave, I want you to know that I barely made it out alive. His voice cracks on the last word. He looks down, clenching the small wooden figure in his hand, a figure of a man reaching toward the sun. The camera slowly pulls back into the mist. The story begins. Rian was 24 years old. He was a wildlife photographer who loved the wilderness more than cities. His whole life he had carried a camera instead of a diary. He believed photographs could tell stories better than words. He had been to many dangerous places: frozen mountains in the north, dry deserts under burning suns, deep swamps full of crocodiles. But nothing scared him. Nature in his eyes was a friend, wild but beautiful. The trip to Rakvan Forest was supposed to be special. The name, Rakvan, meant forest of forgotten time. The villagers said the forest was cursed, that a day inside could feel like 100 years. People went in and never came back. Old women whispered about a strange mist that held travelers captive. Hunters told stories about hearing voices of loved ones calling them deeper into the trees, only to vanish forever. But Rian didn't believe in curses. To him, those were just stories told to keep children from wandering into dangerous terrain. He wanted to prove the legends wrong and capture some rare photographs for his upcoming book about untouched wildlife. However, this wasn't just about work. 20 years ago, when Rian was only 4, his father, Farid Khan, a forest ranger, had disappeared inside Rakvan. He had gone there to save a missing tourist but never returned. His body was never found. Rian grew up with that shadow over his heart. He often imagined that if he could go to Rakvan, maybe he would find a trace of his father, a piece of his jacket, his compass, anything. This trip was personal. When Rian packed his gear, his younger sister Naal insisted on coming with him. She was 20, a university art student who loved sketching animals and landscapes. She always carried a leather sketchbook and a tin box of pencils. I'm coming, she said firmly when Rian tried to convince her to stay behind. If we're finally going to Rakvan, I want to be there. Papa was my father too. Maybe I'll draw the place he saw last. Rian hesitated but gave in. They promised their mother they'd be back in 3 days. The morning they entered Rakvan was bright and warm. Sunlight filtered through the dense trees in golden beams. The air smelled of damp earth and wildflowers. The jungle seemed alive with whispers, birds calling to each other, monkeys leaping from branch to branch, leaves brushing against one another in the wind. Nawal was enchanted. She sketched a blue bird sitting on a branch. It doesn't feel cursed at all, she said. It's beautiful. Rian smiled, snapping pictures of a deer drinking from the river. See, I told you it's just a story, he said. They pitched their tent near a wide silver, blue river that cut through the jungle like a winding ribbon. The water shimmered oddly, reflecting light as if it had tiny stars floating in it even in daylight. But as evening came, something strange happened. The sunlight dimmed too quickly, and the jungle grew silent, not just quiet, but eerily still, as though the animals were holding their breath. The air turned heavy, almost sticky, like a thick invisible fog pressing down on their shoulders. Nawal hugged herself. It feels heavier here, like the air's thicker, she whispered. Rian glanced at his watch. Maybe it's just the humidity. We'll be fine. At night, they sat outside the tent watching the moon rise. The stars looked unusually bright, so close that they felt they could reach out and touch them. Suddenly, the ground gave a soft tremor, almost like a heartbeat beneath their feet. Nawal's smile faded. Did you feel that? Rian nodded but said nothing. He didn't want to scare her. They went to sleep early, but in the middle of the night, Nawal woke up. She shook Rian awake. There's something outside the tent. He grabbed his flashlight and peered through the thin fabric. Shadows moved among the trees, long and slow like figures wading through water. The shapes were not of animals, too tall, too stretched. Rian opened the tent flap, but there was nothing there. Just the mist rising from the river, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Go back to sleep, he told her softly, though his own heart was pounding. The next morning, everything was different. The riverbank where they had pitched their tent had changed. The river had shifted its course by several feet overnight. New rocks had appeared where there had been none, and the trees looked older, their roots thicker and gnarled. Noel's eyes widened. This can't be real. We were here just yesterday. Ryan forced a laugh. It's probably the fog. Things look strange in the morning. But inside he felt an unshakable unease. They decided to go deeper into the jungle. On their way they met a strange old man sitting under a giant banyan tree, carving a wooden figure. He looked as though he belonged to another century. His beard long and white as snow, his skin weathered like dry bark. His eyes shimmered strangely, like rain on black stone. "You shouldn't have come," he said without looking up. His voice was soft but carried a strange weight, like the forest itself was speaking through him. "We're looking for someone," Ryan said. "Our father disappeared here 20 years ago." The old man finally looked at them and gave a sad, knowing smile. "If he's still here, he's not the man you knew. Time here doesn't flow as it does out there. A day here can take everything from you." "Are you saying he's alive?" Noel asked quickly. The old man didn't answer. Instead, he handed them the unfinished wooden carving. It was a small figure of a man reaching toward the sun. "Go back before the jungle decides to keep you," he said. When Ryan looked up to ask another question, the man was gone. The carving lay in Noel's palm, smooth and warm as if alive. That evening, they noticed their own reflections in the river looked slightly older. Ryan's black hair had a single white strand. Noel's eyes looked heavier, as if she had cried all night though she hadn't. Time didn't feel right anymore. When night came, the mist thickened and the jungle began to hum. The hum wasn't from insects or wind. It was deeper, almost like a giant heartbeat echoing from the earth itself. They barely slept. The second day was worse. Hunger struck them strangely. Sometimes they felt starving as if they hadn't eaten for days. Sometimes they felt full despite not eating for hours. Noel's sketchbook began to fill with strange drawings she didn't remember, making spirals, shadowy figures with hollow eyes, and vines wrapping around human faces. By evening, they found a clearing filled with broken tents, rusted lanterns, and torn sleeping bags. Some were half buried under roots and moss, as though the jungle had swallowed them decades ago. Among the debris, Noel found a cracked compass. She turned it over, and there were 2 letters carved on the back: FK. Her breath hitched. Farid Khan. This was Papa's. Ryan felt the ground slip beneath his feet. His father had been here. Maybe he had tried to find a way out but never did. They packed the compass in Noel's sketchbook. That night, they sat silently, neither daring to speak of the thought haunting them both, that maybe their father's soul was still trapped in Rakvan. In the dead of night, Noel heard a faint whisper. "Noel." She shot up, recognizing the voice. It was her father's voice. She stepped out of the tent barefoot, following the sound into the mist. Ryan woke up to find her gone and ran after her, calling her name. He found her standing by a tree, staring into the fog. "It's him," she whispered. "Papa's out there. He's calling me." Ryan grabbed her shoulders. "It's not him. It's the jungle playing tricks." Before they could argue, the ground trembled again, stronger this time, like the jungle was breathing beneath them. They ran back to the river, hoping to retrace their way out. But the jungle had changed again. The trees stood in new places, their roots twisting across what used to be open paths. It was as if the jungle was alive, rearranging itself to keep them inside. After hours of struggling, they came upon the old man again. He was standing near a huge fallen tree that blocked their path. His wooden carving was now complete. The figure's face turned upward, hands reaching toward the sun. "Time won't let go easily," he said. "But it listens to courage." He pointed toward the river. "Follow the water. You must cross it before the first light of dawn. If you don't, the forest will claim another 100 years of your life." Ryan and Noel didn't hesitate. They ran to the river. The water was icy cold, almost freezing, biting into their skin. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the current was pulling at their memories, trying to hold them back. Halfway across, Noel slipped. The current almost dragged her under, but Ryan grabbed her arm and pulled her up. "Hold on," he yelled over the roar of the water. "We'll see the sunrise together." Every step forward felt like dragging centuries of weight, but they didn't stop. Finally, they stumbled out of the water onto the opposite bank, just as the first rays of dawn cut through the mist. The humming of the jungle stopped. The air grew lighter. They collapsed on the grass, gasping, their hands still tightly clasped together. When they looked up to thank the old man, he was gone. In his place lay the wooden carving of the man reaching toward the sun. Noel picked it up. It was warm and smooth, as if the old man's last gift still carried his kindness. They followed the river out of the jungle. When they reached the village at the edge of Rakvan, the locals stared in shock. "You were only gone 1 day," an elder woman said. Rian and Nawal looked at each other in disbelief. To them it had felt like years, like they had aged decades in that jungle. Rian touched the streak of white in his hair, and Nawal ran her fingers over the compass in her pocket. They didn't explain. Some things were too heavy to put into words. The camera fades back to Rian, the man who began the story. He holds the wooden figure close to his chest. His voice is quiet, steady but tinged with sorrow. "Every moment matters," he says. "We thought we had all the time in the world, but Rakvan taught us something we'll never forget. Time is precious. You don't know how much of it you have. A single day can hold 100 years of pain and love. If you waste it, you'll never get it back. Love the people around you. Hold them close. Don't wait to say what matters. Because out there, somewhere in the world, there's always a jungle that steals time, and only love can guide you through it." He looks toward the forest one last time. The screen fades to black as the faint humming of the jungle returns for a moment, like a soft reminder that Rakvan is still there waiting. The story teaches that time is the most precious gift we have. It reminds us to value each moment, cherish loved ones, and never waste the chance to show kindness and courage. It shows that no matter how strong or skilled we are, it's love, faith, and courage that help us survive the darkest places.